Hey there, Goblin Army. It's the beginning of my week, so you all know what that means. I took another film off my shelf of goodness, watched it again, and am going to give you a nice breakdown of the plot and characters and all the things that make this film great. This time, it's a strange sort of sci-fi action-adventure where the stakes are life and creation themselves. So, grab your best hat.
It's a very nice hat.
You like it?
Make sure you're strapped.
Give it a gas!
And,
Welcome on board, Mr. Dallas.
as I review Luc Besson's love letter to Jean Girard and Jean-Claude Mézières, The Fifth Element. The film opens on early 20th century Egypt with an Egyptologist working on a previously unexplored ancient Egyptian temple. While he's working, a giant spaceship descends and large turtle-looking aliens called Mondo Shawans spill out into the temple. They make contact with an old priest of a secretive order and inform him they're taking these pieces of an ancient weapon capable of defeating a great evil which appears every 5,000 years. A little over 300 years later, the film opens again on a bunch of spaceships of the Earth Federation surrounding a fiery planetoid that just suddenly appeared. When they attack it, the fireball responds by destroying the one who fired, after which the descendant priest Vito Cornelius informs the president, played by the late great Tiny Lister, of the great evil and the weapon that has a chance to destroy it. After this, we're introduced to Corbin Dallas, played by Bruce Willis, a down-on-his-luck New York cab driver and ex-Special Forces operative. Meanwhile, the Mondo Shawans are returning and bringing the Supreme Being, the only living thing capable of operating the weapon and destroying the ultimate evil. En route to Earth, the Mondo Shawans' transport is attacked by alien mercenaries called Mangalores under the employ of Zorg, played awesomely by Gary Oldman. They were hired by Zorg to destroy the Mondo Shawan transport and retrieve the stones that were taken in the first scenes. A surviving member of the Mondo Shawan crew is rescued from the destroyed craft and brought to New York to be revived through advanced biotech. Once the survivor is reconstructed, it is revealed to be a humanoid woman named Lilu, played by a very young Milla Jovovich. Being revived in an unfamiliar place, Lilu escapes the lab and winds up jumping off the incredibly tall building to land right in Corbin Dallas's flying cab. After a fun car chase through this futuristic New York, Corbin winds up taking Lilu to Cornelius, who recognizes her as the supreme being they're looking for and takes possession of her. Meanwhile, it's learned by everyone looking for them that the stones were not aboard the Mondo Shawan transport, only Lilu. The stones were given to an opera singer, Plava Laguna, to be transferred to Lilu aboard the hotel yacht on Lost in Paradise. The military brings Corbin out of retirement, raiding things so they could get aboard the luxury space yacht hotel thing and retrieve the stones from the opera singer. Through a series of rather humorous events, he winds up aboard the yacht thing with Lilu. When things aboard the yacht go sideways, both Corbin and Lilu are finally able to show what they're capable of and take care of the business of retrieving the stones and getting to the place they need to be in order to combat the great evil. Yes, that is a very, very condensed version of the plot, and hopefully I've done it in a way that doesn't give away too many key plot points. I really did try to avoid that where I could. This movie would definitely fall under one of those cult successes. It definitely was a success, especially globally, where it earned 3 times its initial production budget. The film, however, also was very divisive among the people who watched it. It was one of those films that you either love or loathe. For me, however, it was the former. I do seem to recall actually seeing this movie in the theaters and enjoying the fuck out of it. I loved the aesthetic of the whole thing. It always reminded me a lot of things like heavy metal, which I'd seen a few years earlier, which is appropriate since the same aesthetics which inspired the movie, that of the French comic book scene, are very much present in heavy metal, being of French origin and all. One of the things I clearly remember from the time the film came out was that Ruby Rhod was definitely one of my favorite characters. Friday had come out just a couple years before, and everyone knew Chris Tucker from that film, and Ruby Rhod was both the same and so totally different from Smokey that it was just awesome. I totally believe that nobody else could have pulled that character off the way Chris Tucker did. For real, there's just no way. He was just so over the top, and that's something Chris Tucker can pull off in his sleep. The other one, of course, was Lilu, I'm not going to go so far as to say that I had a crush on Milla Jovovich at the time or anything, but I did of course think she was pretty, because she was, despite the fact she had no eyebrows in the film. She was also really young at the time, like in her early 20s. I know from watching the special feature stuff that she was only 19 when she actually auditioned for the role, and I know this role pretty much springboarded her career. And granted, she was also kind of typecast as that uber badass super chick, but still, can she really complain too much at this point? The point is that she really pulled off the role and was really good. Gary Oldman was another one that was great in this one. Zorg was a very interesting character, and Oldman really hammed it up good for this role, which is exactly what was needed. There is one thing that I'll admit to, and you all can call me a moron for it, but for years, I thought that Zorg was played by Luke Perry. I know, that's just shameful, but I honestly did. The other thing that I know I mentioned was the aesthetics of the whole thing. Good gods, did this film just look gorgeous and glorious. Especially in the late 90s. Most sci-fi was just so drab and dour at that point, at least from what I can recall. That this one was a real feast for the eyes. All the bright colors and really awesome looking scenery and backgrounds. Normally I don't really look at the costuming much on a film, but this one was just so fucking out there that you couldn't help but notice it. It wasn't just Ruby Rod's costumes either, it was all of them. From Bruce Willis's weird orange tank top to the uniforms on the McDonald's employees. And for my 15-year-old self, those were very noticeable. Hell, I'll come right out and state that they still are. Shit, I'd be a fatter fuck than I currently am if McDonald's employees looked and dressed like that. New York City itself in the film was fucking phenomenal. That's all I can really say about it. It's so cool looking, even now. I don't believe I've seen much else like it, before or since. The place for me where everything kind of bogs down is the end. When we get into the real themes and all of the film, like, it gets ever so slightly preachy right at that point, where Lulu gets all depressed and all that. Plus, I don't know, I've just always had my issues with the end, is all. I get that theme of love is the bright light that can destroy evil and all that. I'm honestly not sure what the fuck bothers me so much about it. I mean, I'm a hopeless romantic, but this one, it's always just rubbed me the wrong way for some reason, and I've never ever, even with my most recent wash through, been able to put my finger on what I don't like about it. Maybe it's just that it feels really forced. Like, Besson was kind of shoehorning this sort of moral lesson into a film which, up to that point, had been fun and colorful and dazzling and bullets and goofy martial arts and action. That really may be what the hell it's always been. Just never been able to really articulate it until now. That it feels fucking fake and forced. Oh, yeah, and another thing I liked about this movie? This was really cool. Anyway, this is running a bit long now, I think, so I'll stop there. Let me know what you thought of the movie, my review, my face, whatever, in the comment section down below. While you're down there, you can defeat the ultimate evil of my channel being a dead thing by hitting those like and subscribe buttons. I'll see you tomorrow for my fun anime review. It is fun, too. I'll see you all then, my Goblin Army. Lates.